Listen, folks, have you ever gone and had somebody sell you one of those big baskets of coupons? It's usually like a big book. They're usually trying to make some dollars, right? They sell you this big book of coupons that all expire on a certain date. And you pay like 10 bucks for like 100 bucks worth of coupons. Well, they're actually betting on the idea that you won't use very many, if at all, any of those coupons, and they'll get to keep that money, right? And that the vendors won't need to have to pay out. And so that's exactly the whole strategy summed up in one analogy of what we're doing here. And the scoop is our coupons all expire on the third Fridays of the months. If you're using weekly options, they expire every Friday, but the majority of us are still using monthly options. And you can see I brought pulled up you anybody can Google, you just Google options expiration calendar and you'll get the OIC. This is the big kind of governing body behind the options trading, right? The Options Industry Council, the OIC, and they publish this calendar, and it shows you, as I look at my Adobe Acrobat, this is a PDF file, so it doesn't hurt. And they have these calendars, by the way, for every year. You can look at past ones, and you can look at new ones. We just had this September 20. It's expiring right now. Next one is October 18. The next one is November 15, and the final one for the year is December 20. What's nice is all those coupons expire, and if they're not used, well, then you get to keep that money. And if they are used, you usually get to have, you get cashed out at a profit. So it's a win-win situation. And that's really what we're doing by selling premium and what the significance of the third Friday of the month means. The third Friday of the month is just when these options expire.
All right. Well, that's, a quick breakdown on why it's important. And that's why the third Friday of the month is when we get the most joyful version of AJ because all of those coupons have expired. He's got a big smile on his
We
face.
realize our gains.
He's taking the wife out to dinner in the
It's
fancy new EV, riding
yeah,
around town,
yeah,
happiest guy around. All
yeah.
right. Well, we could keep that nice and short because we do have a couple questions from some of the viewers that I think are worthy of looking into. Here is Mike. So AJ, your outlook for next year when most of your read point is I'm not sure. Basically, what are you looking forward to next year with regards to the presidential race? Is that going to have an effect? Because I keep hearing that if Kamala wins and the Democrats sweep, the market's going down, and then if Trump and the Republican wins, that's the opposite.
You know, I don't put much credibility into, it's nice, this kind of buildup and all of that. But what the market's like. So if you think about these markets, you can think about a sports game, whatever your favorite sports game is. And I think you all realize that the real winners of any sports game are the ones that take the rules, right? And play right to the edge of the rules. Like if you're watching football or soccer, what you notice is that the players that can go right up along the edge without going out of bounds, but they play right up along the edge and then go and get the goal, those are the ones that make the probability of the highest number of goals. They play right to the edge of the rules. So the scoop is the first year of a new presidential election, you don't have to worry about this whole, reelecting a president and the divisiveness between the reds and the blues and the blacks and the whites and all these different, groups. Instead, you're kind of like, well, we're in it to win it here. And what happens is the rules get set and get stabilized. There's no more questions about what's going to happen with the rules. Are the rules going to change or you've got a stable list of rules. My vision has always been that if the rules don't change, then the players can get really good at playing to the edge. It's when all of a sudden it's not that the players running up the side of the field are doing bad. It's when all of a sudden the sidelines change in 10 feet and the person who was playing like, their best game ever is all of a sudden out of bounds. So I think what happens is not necessarily who wins, but it's more about stability. It's about, hey, we know what's about to happen. Now we can adjust our long term plays, right? When you think about the markets and the companies that are trading on the markets, they do better when things don't change, right? They actually do better when there's not any sort of rules. So if they know what's coming, just like, we're not going to see any mortgage rate, significant mortgage rate drops because of this 50 basis point drop in the Fed, because everybody was already expecting the rule change, right? It was already priced in, and the mortgage companies have been dropping rates for the last 4 months, expecting these upcoming drops. So you're not going to see much significant movement because it's already been priced in. So it's really a matter of the stability that's going to come. So I think what we're going to see is stability, and from that stability, just growth across the board. Um, I don't know if we're going to see growth in asset evaluations, meaning I don't know if we're going to see the market go higher, but I think that we're going to see the companies that trade in the markets, at least for 2025, 2026, get more robust. Instead of doing stock buybacks and some of the like accounting games to make their price go up, I think we're going to see companies kind of buckle down and become more productive, right? I think we're going to see companies buckle down and do the more traditional moves to reinforce and stabilize their businesses. I think 2025 may be, at least for the first half, sideways choppy, but I actually am, no matter who wins the election for 2026 and 2027, I think that we're going to have a pretty solid, uptrending market. And the only caveat I have is, should another pandemic come, because I think that we're generating these viruses nonstop, and that it's not a matter of if, but when the next, world stopping pandemic comes. But assuming none of that happens and there's no transient external stochastic shocks, I think we're going to see a pause where everybody just gets stronger. They go back to the gym and they basically train the fundamentals for at least the beginning, if not all of 2025. And then I think we're going to be on a good footing to see some growth moving it past that.
I like that, going back to the fundamentals and the idea of stability, uh, keeping the
That's what the
market.
market likes.
Yeah, and then I think of the Republican presidential candidates, Donald Trump, and then the opposite word of stability comes to mind, and so it's a very um, interesting next couple of weeks that we're in for the,
Yeah.
and
And
I
we'll
just
see shocks, Sip. We'll see shocks in the market, but I have a feeling they're going to be short lived for sure. I really don't think, as much as people put emphasis on, our president and everything, and they do set a tone. But when it comes to fiscal policy, you've got a huge Congress, which is for the most part, dysfunctional. And so, I think it's going to pass just like any news headline passes. And it's the stability that it's going to bring, that we don't have to go through this cycle for another, 4 years.
and some industries will benefit one way or the other. I think that's just natural. So we'll keep an eye on things. I did see that Trump this week was talking about capping credit card interest rates at 10%. Uh,
I mean, I think we're at the point, and I've also been seeing all this stuff about unrealized capital gains, which was one of the things that Kamala was talking about. I think it's at that point where they're saying whatever they have to say to get elected. But first of all, unrealized capital gains, I laugh when people are saying that's a big deal because if you look closely, it's only going to affect people that have $100 million or more. I wish I wish I had that problem, right? And if you have $100 million or more, you're going to be able to afford special asset protection attorneys who are going to know how to use entities and hide the money anyway. So it's not even a talking point for them. But it's not going to affect, I might be just under a fifth of the way there, but I'm already 51. I don't see myself ever making it to the $100 million mark, and it's really not something any of us have to worry about. The point is they're saying whatever they have to say to get elected. So, uh, good on them. But for me, I'm just looking at the markets, and like we said, the markets like stability. It's funny. The markets really like gridlock, right? Because gridlock means that rules aren't going to change. And so that's really what makes the markets grow is when rules don't change and they can play to the edge of the game.